My wife had an affair and asked for an open marriage to keep seeing him. I played along, gathered evidence of her neglecting our kids, and filed for divorce and full custody. Hey everyone. So, I'm using a throwaway account for obvious reasons. Let's just say my name's Mark for now. I'm 35, and my wife, let's call her Sarah, is 33. We've been together for 12 years, married for 10, and have 2 awesome kids, Lily, who's 8, and Tom, who's 6. I'm putting this out there because things have been pretty chaotic over the past couple of days, and I'm hoping that writing it down might help me make some sense of it all or at least get some outside perspective. For the past 12 years, I've been working as a senior project manager at a big commercial construction firm. The projects are complex, high stakes, and always under tight deadlines, which means long hours for me. My typical day runs 10 to 12 hours at the site or office, but it's not rare for that to stretch to 14 or 15 hours, especially when we're hustling to meet a phase completion or handling unexpected crises. Working weekends, at least half a Saturday, has become more of the norm than the exception. It's a demanding job, sure, but it's given us a comfortable life, allowed us to buy a nice home in a good school district, and ensured Sarah doesn't have to worry about working for financial reasons. Before the kids came along, Sarah was a freelance graphic designer. She was pretty good at it and had a decent client base. When Lily was born, we had many conversations about childcare and careers, and Sarah decided she wanted to be a stay-at-home mom during the kids' early years. I was on board with that since my income was enough for us, and we both felt having one parent around all the time was a good thing. About 6 months after Lily was born, Sarah stopped taking on new clients and became primarily a homemaker, though she'd sometimes take on small design projects for friends or local community groups for fun. In the beginning, I thought our family life was pretty stable. I managed my hectic work schedule, and Sarah took care of the house and the kids' routines. I tried to be there when I was home, helping with bath times, bedtime stories, and weekend activities when work allowed. But then, about 8 or 9 months ago, things started to shift. Sarah mentioned feeling a bit isolated and wanting more of a social life. Her college friend Jessica started organizing girls' nights out, maybe once a month, for dinner or a movie. I was totally supportive and would handle all the childcare on those nights because I figured it was important for her. But over time, those nights out started happening more often. Once a month became every other Friday, and then for the last 3 months, it was pretty much every Friday and sometimes even Saturday afternoons or evenings. The group she hung out with also seemed to change. Jessica was mentioned less, and there were new names I didn't recognize. At home, Sarah's behavior started to change too, though it was subtle, like you wouldn't really notice unless you looked back on it. She was more into her phone, often smiling or typing quickly, but when I asked, she'd just say it was some funny group chat thing or planning the next outing. She also put more effort into her appearance for those nights out, with new clothes and spending more time on her hair and makeup, which I thought was just her enjoying her social life. The first real alarm bell, though small, was about 2 months ago when she set a new, complex password on her phone. We'd always known each other's passwords, not to check up on one another but more for convenience and openness. When I asked, she just said her phone's software update required a more secure lock. It felt odd, but I didn't push it. Then, about 3 weeks ago, while sorting out our joint account for some work expenses, I noticed several charges at a cocktail bar called Crimson Lounge, a place I'd never heard her mention, definitely not somewhere her old friend Jessica would go. There were 4 charges over 6 weeks, always on a Friday or Saturday night, along with Uber receipts for trips to and from a trendy but somewhat remote area of the city, where she had no other reason to visit, especially late at night. The amounts weren't huge, but the pattern stood out as different from her usual spending. I made a mental note, feeling a growing unease. But with a critical project deadline looming, I was swamped with work and didn't confront it right away. The situation came to a head 2 nights ago, on a Friday. Sarah went out for another girls' night and got home around 3 a.m. I was pretending to be asleep but was wide awake, mostly because of work stress but also because. So, there was this nagging anxiety that had been creeping up for weeks. She was a bit tipsy, humming to herself while getting ready for bed, and she put her phone face up on the nightstand. Not long after, it buzzed with a notification. I looked over, and there it was, lit up with a message from someone named David H. that said, "Tonight was incredible. Can't stop thinking about you." I stayed calm, didn't yell or anything, just laid there letting those words sink in. Then I calmly asked, "Sarah, who's David H.?" She jumped like she'd seen a ghost and immediately turned pale. Her first response was denial. She stammered something about David being a friend from her group, but I gently pointed out that the message didn't sound like it was from just a friend. That's when she broke down crying, admitting she'd been seeing this guy, David, for 4 months. She met him at the Crimson Lounge one night when her girlfriends supposedly weren't around. Apparently, those girls' nights had gotten a bit exclusive. She talked about feeling lonely because I was working long hours, feeling invisible and unappreciated. She said David made her feel alive again, but she kept saying it was a mistake and that she didn't want to wreck our family. I mostly listened, not saying much beyond a few questions about how long it had been going on. Our kids were asleep, not knowing that their world was starting to fall apart. I didn't touch her or say much. By morning, after not sleeping a wink, I moved to the guest room. She kept apologizing, looking awful with puffy, red eyes, saying she'd do anything to fix things. And then, in a twist, she suggested an open marriage, nervously proposing we could maybe stay together while she kept seeing David, allowing me the same freedom if I wanted. She pitched it as a mature way to handle things without going straight to divorce. I was stunned, felt like she was asking me to just okay her affair. I told her I needed time to think. So now here I am in my home office with the door shut. The kids, Lily and Tom, are downstairs watching cartoons. Sarah's acting normal in the kitchen, but it feels off. My mind's racing, trying to figure out the best move. Saying no could mean she leaves right away, but what about the kids? I have a tough work schedule, and dealing with single parenthood seems impossible. Has anyone been in a situation like this? Where an affair confession is followed by a suggestion to keep the other person in the picture. What do I do first? It's been 3 weeks since I first shared what's going on. The support and advice from everyone were incredible, so thank you. Going through all the different thoughts and suggestions helped me see that while my situation feels unique, issues like betrayal and hard choices are sadly quite common. A lot of people wondered if there were any signs of Sarah being unhappy or if we thought about therapy before this all blew up. Thinking back, her wanting more girls' nights and some comments about feeling stuck could have been clues, but she never directly said she was really unhappy with our marriage. Whenever I tried to check in, she'd just brush it off as being tired or stressed from the kids. We hadn't thought about therapy because I honestly didn't think our marriage was in real trouble. You know, our marriage was pretty solid, even though we had our moments of stress. When she apologized, she was super emotional, crying and beating herself up over it. But looking back, it seemed like her tears weren't about being sorry for the mess she made, it felt more like she was bummed she got caught. Right after, she jumped straight into suggesting the open marriage thing, which made me feel like she wanted to have her cake and eat it too, keep our marriage stable while also having a thing with this guy, David. She said falling for him was unexpected and that she was torn, thinking an open marriage was the only way to avoid blowing up our lives. A lot of people told me to talk to a lawyer, and that advice stuck with me since I needed to do something concrete. So, 2 days after my first post, I booked a session with a family law attorney I found through a bar association. That hour was eye-opening and empowering. The lawyer laid out the basics of divorce, custody, and finances in our state. She said to start documenting everything about Sarah's behavior, my parenting, spending, and any communication about her affair or the open marriage idea. Turns out, this could be crucial if we do end up divorcing. She also mentioned how an open marriage could complicate a divorce but that Sarah's ongoing conduct and previous infidelity would be important. So, after mulling over everything, including everyone's advice, I made a tough call. I couldn't really wrap my head around the idea of an open marriage, especially one that started from cheating and was skewed in Sarah's favor. But confronting her aggressively seemed risky. I worried she might get sneaky or make rash decisions that could hurt the kids before I was ready. So, I cooked up a plan. First, I told Sarah I'd think about the open marriage idea. I was careful with my words. I didn't say yes, I just said it was a wild thought, and I was still processing her affair. I told her exploring this path would need a lot of work, professional help, and she'd need to be completely honest with me. I needed time to mull it over, do some research and see if I could even entertain it. I suggested we consider couples counseling to navigate this, knowing full well it was my way of buying time. My main goal was to prevent her from digging her heels in or hiding more stuff, while I got my ducks in a row. Second, following my lawyer's advice, I hired a private investigator. It was a big step, and not easy, but I saw it as necessary. Their job is to discreetly keep tabs on what Sarah's up to, especially with David and any neglect of her duties as a parent. They started a couple weeks ago. It's not cheap, but I see it as a worthwhile investment for a fair shot for me and the kids. Third, I got super serious about documenting everything. I started a secure, password-protected online journal where I jot down daily notes about Sarah's comings and goings, her explanations, how she is with the kids, her moods, and any big conversations we have. I also track her messages related to David, and keep a record of my own activities, focusing on what I do with the kids. Plus, I've shifted my schedule to be the main caregiver. That part's been tricky. I had open discussions with my boss in HR, without spilling the affair details, stressing the need for me to be a stable parent. Surprisingly, they were supportive and gave me some leeway. Now, I handle all the morning routines for Lily and Tom, getting them ready, and school runs. I'm there to pick them up from school or activities too, and attend every event they have. Man, life's been a whirlwind lately. I'm basically juggling everything from school meetings to every single doctor's appointment. I'm their personal chef, homework helper, and bedtime enforcer, all rolled into one. But honestly, it's not just about having some leverage in case things get legal. My kids are my world, and they really need stability and a parent who's actually there for them now more than ever. On top of all that, my lawyer advised me to get a grip on our financial situation. So, I've been on a mission. I've rounded up every bank statement, investment record, credit card bill, tax return, you name it. For the last 5 years, I've been seeing a financial advisor solo to get a handle on my own money and plan for whatever might come our way. I even opened my own bank account for my paycheck, though I still cover our household expenses from the joint account. But I'm keeping an eagle eye on it for any sneaky withdrawals by Sarah. Speaking of Sarah, when I casually mentioned I might think about her proposal, you'd have thought I told her she won the lottery. She seemed so relieved, like a huge weight had been lifted. She honestly thinks I'm cool with her idea, which is wild. She's been super open about her thing with David now. She'll drop his name like, "Oh, David and I are trying that new place on Friday," or "David had a rough day at work." Hearing his name around the house all the time is like a bucket of ice water down my back. It's taking serious effort to keep my poker face. And, get this, she hasn't moved an inch towards being transparent or trying to rebuild trust like I said she needed to. Her idea of honesty is just giving me her David schedule and expecting me to be cool with it. Meanwhile, I've got a private investigator who's been on it. They're pros and super discreet. They've caught Sarah and David meeting up during the day when she's supposed to be running errands. They even got photos of them at restaurants, parks, and going in and out of what they think is David's apartment. Worse yet, twice in the last week, she got a last-minute babysitter for our kids. Once for Tom's soccer pickup, and another time when she said she had an errand but actually met up with David. All of this is being logged. On the bright side, spending more time with Lily and Tom has been amazing. They're loving the consistency and attention. Lily, who's pretty sharp, has even said, "Mommy goes out a lot now and you always pick us up. I like when you do that, Daddy." I keep my answers positive and never badmouth Sarah. But honestly, I'm wiped. I'm basically a full-time solo parent, balancing a stressful job and the emotional roller coaster of this double life. Sleep? Hardly. At home, things are just plain weird. We're like roommates who have kids together and a shared past. Sarah's almost chipper these days, like she's been unburdened now that the secret's out. She chats about groceries and school stuff like everything's fine. But there's no real talk about our marriage or future, just her cheerfully saying things about how people make all sorts of arrangements work now. My lawyer's happy with how we're handling things and the evidence we're gathering. He says showing I'm the main caregiver, along with proof of Sarah's ongoing affair and any neglect or money issues, will be strong if we end up in court over divorce, especially about the kids and support. How long I can keep this act up, who knows? Every day feels like a performance. But for now, it's all about protecting the kids, securing their future, and if our marriage ends, making sure it's fair and based on what's really happening, not Sarah's dream of an open life while I suffer in silence. Thanks for letting me unload all this. I expect it to be a long road and I'll update again if anything major changes. Fast forward 14 months since I first opened up about this, which feels like forever ago, and here I am with a final update. These months have been some of the toughest. I kept pretending to consider Sarah's open marriage idea while we still lived together. The private investigator didn't miss a beat, gathering everything about Sarah's activities. Her thing with David didn't just keep going, it got bolder. She started staying out late on weekdays, claiming she had social events or gigs. So, it turns out that the reports from the private investigator, Pi, were consistently showing that Sarah was spending a lot of time with this guy, David. The Pi even had proof of weekend hangouts at his apartment and a supposed wellness retreat she said she was going on with a friend. Spoiler alert, it was actually a getaway with David to a nearby resort town. During this whole mess, I pretty much became the only grown-up on duty for our kids, Lily and Tom. I was juggling everything: school, homework, meals, doctor visits, playdates, and just being there for them emotionally. Meanwhile, Sarah's involvement dropped to the bare minimum, like she could barely look up from her phone. She even missed Lily's big moment in the school play because she had work, but the pie busted her having dinner with David instead. I could see how disappointed Lily was. These incidents were piling up, making it painfully clear how detached Sarah was getting from the family. Emotionally, this was hell for me. I was trying to keep it together for the kids while dealing with daily pie updates and my own feelings of betrayal. I was barely sleeping. After about 5 months, I decided to file for divorce with my lawyer's advice. We had a mountain of evidence, timelines, photos, videos, financial records showing her spending on David, and my own notes on how little Sarah was around for the kids. My lawyer was sure we had a strong case, not just for the divorce but to get primary custody of the kids too. Planning how to file was tricky. I got a new place in the same school district so the kids could stay in their routine. On filing day, while Sarah was at what she called a yoga workshop, Pi said she was actually with David. I moved the kids and our stuff to the new house. Sarah got served the divorce papers and temporary custody notice that night when she came home to find the house nearly empty. I heard through the grapevine that she was shocked and furious, feeling betrayed because she thought I was warming up to her idea of an open marriage. Little did she know, I was just collecting the evidence against her. The divorce was contested but didn't drag on too long, thanks to the evidence we had. Sarah pushed hard for joint custody and spousal support, claiming all her years as a stay-at-home mom and a bigger cut of our stuff. Her lawyer tried to argue that the Pies' work was spying and that I was being vindictive. We had a bunch of court dates, and my lawyer laid out everything. The Pies' reports, photos, my logs of school stuff and doctor visits all showed I was the main parent. We didn't just prove the affair, we showed Sarah was putting David above the kids over and over again. She spent some family money on him too, which didn't help her case. Things got tense, especially during cross-examinations, but facts are facts. Sarah's reasons for why she was MIA or her story about David didn't really hold up against what we had. Mediation was a bust because she wouldn't let go of her demands. After a couple of months, the judge gave a ruling. I got sole legal custody and primary physical custody of the kids. The judge pointed out all the evidence showing I was the stable parent compared to Sarah's questionable choices. She got a step-up visitation schedule, every other weekend and a midweek visit, at first supervised because the judge wanted to make sure the kids were the focus. After 3 months of supervised visits, that requirement was dropped. The kids' exchanges had to happen in a neutral public spot. If you haven't yet, please subscribe. And hit the notification bell to stay updated with more crazy real-life stories happening around you. Alright, so here's how things shook out. To keep things chill between Sarah and me, we decided that any kid drop-offs or pickups would happen either at a neutral spot or through someone we both trust. Sarah had asked for spousal support that would take up 40% of my paycheck for 10 whole years, claiming her long break from work to raise our kids was the reason. Her lawyer backed her up, but my lawyer was ready with some receipts. They pointed out that Sarah actually had some pretty solid graphic design skills, even if she hadn't been using them much. Plus, she's still young and totally capable of getting a job. She hadn't been focusing on being a full-time stay-at-home mom for all that long before her focus shifted to other things, and let's not forget her behavior didn't help her case. The judge ended up giving her a much smaller alimony check, lasting just 18 months and only about 15% of what she initially wanted. The judge mentioned that even though her homemaking was considered, her decisions during our marriage, especially regarding her financial missteps with her affair, definitely played a role in cutting her support short. She basically shot herself in the foot. When it came to splitting up our stuff, it mostly followed state rules, but I got a bit of an edge because Sarah spent some of our shared money on her fling with David, fancy trips, posh dinners, and all that jazz. It wasn't a huge amount in the grand picture, but it was a nod to the financial strain her affair caused. We also had to sell the house, split the proceeds, and after all was said and done, I used my share to buy a new place for me and the kids. From the little info I gather through our co-parenting app and the grapevine, Sarah moved in with David not long after the divorce wrapped up because she had to move out of our old place. They're staying in an apartment now. Her financial situation is apparently not as cushy as she's used to. The alimony she's getting is just enough to scrape by, and David's paycheck along with whatever freelance gigs she's picking up isn't cutting it for the lifestyle she's used to. Their relationship seems to be getting a reality check from living together and facing money troubles, plus handling things with the kids. Sarah sees our kids, Lily and Tom, as per the court's order. My sister or a good friend usually does the kid exchanges to avoid any awkwardness between me and Sarah. The vibe is civil but a bit tense. The kids are nice to her, but our bond is rock solid. I'm their main dude. Our life now? Way more chilled. The new house might be smaller, but it's filled with warmth and happiness. My work life took a turn for the better too. I used the whole situation to score a job that's more flexible, with fewer travel obligations. Sure, it means a little less cash and maybe a slower climb up the career ladder, but it's worth it to be there for my kids. They're thriving, doing awesome in school, have great friends, and are bouncing back from the divorce like champs. We're closer than ever. Big thanks to everyone here for the support. This is the last you'll hear about this chapter of my life. I'm all about looking ahead, raising my kids, and building a bright future with them.